My name is Victor Fuhrman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. May a novel featuring a roller coaster ride of love, betrayal, and unexpected transformation with a juicy revenge subplot and a surprise ending not only entertain readers, but also offer lessons on both love and life. My guest this week on Destination Unlimited, my dear friend Arielle Ford, joins me to share her first novel, The Love Thief. Arielle Ford is a celebrated love and relationship expert, author, and speaker whose mission is to help people find love, keep love, and most importantly, be love. She's a gifted writer and the award-winning author of 11 nonfiction books, including the international bestseller, The Soulmates Secret. Her websites are arielleford.com and thelovethief.com, and she joins me this week to discuss her first novel and a book guaranteed to be #1 in 2023 summer reading, The Love Thief. Please join me in welcoming back to Destination Unlimited my dear friend Arielle Ford. Welcome, Arielle.
Thank you, Vic. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and it's so great to have you back on the publication post date. It was yesterday of your brand new book, The Love Thief. But please share with our listeners meeting you for the first time your path and how it led to your work as a relationship expert.
Well, it's kind of a long and winding road. I never woke up one day in my life and said, oh, I should become a love and relationship expert. That is not what happened. I spent many years in PR and publicity and marketing, mostly in the publishing industry. And then I became a first-time bride at the age of 44. And every woman over 40 that I came in contact with said, how did you do it? I want a Brian. Tell me how to do it. And I had created a program for myself that I call the Soulmate Secret. And it's a law of attraction program on how to manifest your soulmate. And it worked for me really well, as anybody who's ever met Brian knows. And I started sharing it with different people, and it was working for them. And then one day I was on a cruise with my sister, the late Debbie Ford, and she had 200 of her coaches there. And Debbie spontaneously called me up on stage and said, tell everybody how you manifested your soulmate. So I did this 45-minute off the cuff talk. And when I was done, 200 people rushed the stage and said, I need that book. I want that book. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to write a book about this. So instead, I created an internet product that I called the Soulmate Kit. It doesn't exist anymore, but back then it was a workbook and a bunch of audio CDs. It might have even been cassette tapes. It was so long ago. And I was just sort of selling it online. This is back in maybe 2005 or something. And I was out to dinner one night with some friends that run Harper One, the HarperCollins office in San Francisco. And they said, well, what's new, Arielle? What are you up to? And I told them about the Soulmate Kit. And they said, oh, send it to us. So I sent it to them. And the next thing I knew, they offered me a really good deal to turn it into a book. And the book took off like crazy. It was published in 21 languages in 40 countries. It's called The Soulmate Secret. And then suddenly people started calling me, asking me to come do workshops and retreats and give talks. And I was like, what? What are you kidding? I'm a behind the scenes PR person. I'm not on the stage. But that's what happened. And I ended up transitioning out of, my business into becoming a speaker and a quasi expert. And what I discovered was that, manifesting the soulmate is truly the easy part. It's learning to live with them where all the work is. That's the really hard part. And soon after Brian and I got married, I discovered that I had zero partnership skills. I was really good at being the boss and running a business, but I was no good at being a partner. So at that point, I decided I was going to commit my life to becoming a student of love and finding out what it takes to have a long-term, healthy, committed, happy marriage. So it was just, what do they say? Something's the mother of invention, crisis or whatever. Desperation is the mother of invention. So that's what happened. It was just an unplanned, unexpected evolution. And that's what I've been doing with my life pretty much for at least the last 15 years. So that's the short version.
And you've written 12 books, and you're a best-selling relationship and self-help author. But The Love Thief is fiction. What was it like writing fiction for the first time?
Oh, well, that was another thing that was not on my to-do list. Basically, what happened was Brian came walking into my office one day, and he said, I just had this idea. I think you should write a book about me, and it should be called I Married an Alien. And I said to him, I would never write that book. You're not alien to me. But after he walked out, I started thinking, well, if I was going to write a book about Brian, what would that be like? And I realized that I would want to write it as a story where the hero of the book has his personality, somebody who's very loving and empathetic and giving and a good person to talk to. And then I thought, okay, enough of that. And I forgot about it. And then a few days later, this title of a book came to me. The title was The Love Walla. And in India, a walla is somebody who's really good at what they do. So if you and I met on a street corner in Delhi and you said, oh, I really need a coffee, I'd say, oh, Vic, go see my chai walla. He's just around the corner. Or if you needed a ride somewhere, it's like, oh, let's call my auto rickshaw walla. So my interpretation of a walla is somebody who's really good at what they do. And when I came up with this phrase, the love walla, which I knew wasn't an existing term, I just swooned. I just thought, oh, yes, I'll write this book someday about Brian being a love walla, thinking it'd be like a self-help book, like how to become a love walla. Well, that wasn't the plan. All of a sudden, this movie starts unfolding in my head, this story. And I can see that it's not nonfiction. It's a novel, which I don't know how to write. And I could see that it takes place in Rishikesh, India, a place that I've been to in the past, but never walked the streets thinking how I would describe it to a reader. And then I thought, oh, this is so stupid. I don't want to write another book. Isn't 12 enough? I mean, 11. I had 11 at that point. And I certainly don't want to write fiction. So again, I pushed it away. It's like, I am not going to do this. At the same time, I got an email from masterclass.com telling me about a new online course with Dan Brown, who is my favorite author. I worship and adore Dan Brown. And I thought, oh, this will be fun. It was called How to Write a Thriller. And I thought, I don't care about writing a thriller. I'm never going to do that. But I would like to hang out online with Dan Brown. So I signed up for the course. And on episode number 3, the topic is location as a character in the book. And he's talking about how Florence, Italy was a character in the Da Vinci Code and why that's so important and what that's like. And then I started thinking, well, if I were going to write this novel, The Love Walla, that takes place in Rishikesh, I definitely would need to go back to Rishikesh to write it as a character. And then I thought, nope, isn't 11 books enough? I don't want to write another book. And I finally, it was just torturing me. Like the movie wouldn't go away and the idea wouldn't go away. So I thought, okay, I'm going to talk to God about this. And I sat down and I said, okay, God, I don't want to do this. But if I'm meant to do it, then I need to manifest a round trip business class ticket to India so I can go do this research. Now, these tickets are about $7,000. So I was relieved. I thought, okay, that is never going to happen. I'm off the hook. And 48 hours later, I had the ticket in my hand and off I went to India.
Synchronicity.
Oh, who knows? I would call it destiny more than anything. So at that point, I really got that I was supposed to write this book. And then when I got to India, all the scenes in my head and this movie that's playing in my head, I saw them. I tripped over them. I walked through the door into them. So I never wanted to write a novel. I never ever had the conscious thought maybe I should write a short story, let alone a novel. And yet, 5 years later, here it is, all 105,000 words. So now I'm quite excited and I'm very happy that I did it, but it was unplanned. It was an unplanned pregnancy.
Yeah. The tagline for The Love Thief says, he broke her heart, crushed her dreams until karma intervened. What is this book about, and what inspired you to write it?
Well, like I said, I didn't really come from inspiration. It came from somebody beating on me to write it. But here's what the book's about. It's about a very ordinary American girl, almost 38 years old, single, has spent her whole life waiting for her prince to come on a white horse. And he's late and he's late. And she's now worried that her eggs are dying off and she's never going to have the white picket fence life that she always wanted. And she's a chef. She's an up and coming chef in San Diego. And she gets this huge deal to cater one of the biggest galas of the year. And while she's there, she has this magical under the fireworks meeting with this prince, the son of the owner of the estate where she's throwing the party. And very, very quickly, they fall in love and they make plans for the future. And he whisks her off to Europe on this incredible trip. And then he takes her to Hawaii and everything's peachy. And they get engaged. They get engaged at Petco Park on the pitcher's mound, and it's on the Jumbotron. And her mother learns about it on the evening news. And then she discovers that her fiance has betrayed her with her best friend and business partner. And she discovers pretty much everything she knows about him is a lie. And her life is over. She is heartbroken. All her dreams are crushed. She gets in a car accident and nearly dies. And she's back home living with her mother, recovering from all her car crash injuries and her broken heart. And during all this, she has an auntie, a woman who was born in India, raised and educated in America, who's an attorney. And her auntie hands her a check for $10,000 and says, this was going to be your wedding gift, but now it's going to be reinvent yourself, recreate your life gift. I think you should go to India to my cousin's cooking school while you try to figure out what's next for you. And that's how she ends up in India. And the one thing you need to know about Holly, about this girl, is she is not a believer. She is a reaction to her baby boom mother who used to hang dream catchers over her crib. She's not into meditation. She's not into yoga. She thinks all the stuff mother and auntie are into, all the, Esther Hicks cruises and law of attraction stuff is nonsense. And yet she ends up in the holiest city in India and begins to have these magical, mystical healing experiences. So that's sort of the big picture of what the book is about. What I will tell you is that it's a romantic, spiritual thriller with a very juicy revenge subplot that has a happy surprise ending.
Now, the villain in The Love Thief that you started describing is one of the most despicable men I've ever read on the page. How did you create such an evil character?
Well, unfortunately, I have at least 3 close girlfriends who dated a man like that.
Oh.
So he is a mishmash composite character of men that I've known in my life. Of course, all names and changes and circumstances have been radically changed, and I have a very vivid imagination. But the behaviors and the way that all these women in my life were love bombed, which is a technical term. They were love bombed and tricked into having a relationship with this sociopath. It wasn't that hard to write. And in fact, it was very satisfying at times to write because there's this one scene where Holly's having a dream where her ex is boiling in a big vat of oil. I had that dream. So some of it just came from my own spontaneous memory, but writing it was very cathartic.
Much of The Love Thief takes place in India, as you shared. When and how did you fall in love with India?
In 1997, Deepak Chopra, who was my client for more than a dozen years, took me to India to attend his daughter's wedding. And it was the most magical trip ever. Everything about it, from the moment I landed at the airport, I just felt like I had come home. Everything about India is totally unlike anything about America. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the way people dress, the way they get around, the level of daily ritual. It's just a magical, magical place. Just like some people fall in love with Disneyland and they say it's the happiest place on earth. For me, Disneyland is the most miserable place on earth. For me, everything about it is fake and phony and cliche, and I hate Disneyland. But for me, India is probably the magic every 8-year-old feels at Disneyland. It's just like, wow, it's a kaleidoscope of things I don't know, but I'm falling in love with.
And what happened on your research trip to India?
Well, besides manifesting the ticket instantly, like I said, every single day, the movie in my head appeared in 3D reality. A lot of what happens takes place at both an ashram and also a spiritual bookstore. And those places that I saw in my head, I found them. They really exist. I would have thoughts. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely if I could walk down the main street of the little town and a holy man would put red strings and give me blessings around my wrist. And 10 steps later, there's a man painted up and dressed like Hanuman, the monkey god, asking, may I give you a blessing? That kind of magic kept happening every single day.
Do you think you had a past life in India?
Oh, I think I've had many, many, many past lives in India because it was all so familiar. I could breathe deeper when I was there. It just felt like home. I had no fear of anything. Well, that's not true. The traffic in Mumbai is terrifying. But beyond that, I felt at home and very comfortable. And I'm very certain I've had lots of past lives there.
As you had mentioned, you visualized in 3D these places, and there they were. There they appeared. So you think you walked those paths before?
I'm not sure if it was the exact streets or locations, because India is huge, right? There's 1.2 billion people in this gigantic country. But certainly there have been parts of India when I've been there that feel totally at home. Rishikesh is one of them. Cochin in the state of Kerala is another one. When I went to see the Taj Mahal, it was beautiful. I'm glad I saw it. I don't think I ever lived in Agra. But it's a fascinating, fabulous place. And I always tell people, if you have the desire to go, take that as a sign. But if you have no desire to go, also listen to that, because, it's different and it's hard and things don't operate at the same, pace that we're used to having. And is there a lot of poverty in places? Yes, of course there is. Will you see things that will completely blow your mind? Yes, you will. So if you're up for an adventure, India is a good place.
Something that you just mentioned resonates with me, and that's this question of if you have a desire to do something, do it. Listen to the inner voice. If you don't, listen to that inner voice also. Do you always listen to your inner voice?
Always, 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 always. I believe that, well, actually, Deepak taught me this. He said that when you have a desire, you can trust that the seeds for the fulfillment of that desire already exist within you.
And that's why
so I have no desire to learn how to become a real estate broker, right? None whatsoever. I do have a desire to get on a plane and go almost anywhere exotic. So I follow that one as opposed to, maybe I should torture myself and go back to school.
Now, as you had shared before, and as I know personally, you are blessed with this wonderful man in your life, Brian. And yet the character that you create, the antagonist to poor Holly, is one of the most miserable men that exists. How are you able to manifest a miserable man with such a loving husband?
Because they exist. I actually don't know any woman who hasn't been betrayed by a lover at some point in their life. And I can't tell you how many of my early readers called to tell me, hey, Arielle, I just finished your book, and I want you to know that you wrote that book for me. You just wrote my story. I've never read anything that so described the emotional roller coaster I was on trying to get out of this relationship with a sociopath. So it's a much more common experience. People don't talk about it, especially in our community, the people who consider themselves spiritual, whether they are or not, because they don't want to talk about what my sister's work is, the dark side. They don't want to own that they have a dark side. They don't want to own that, that there is evil in the world. It's all, peace and love, and, let's pray over that. And sometimes even prayer doesn't work. Now, what prayer works for is it will help you get to a more neutral space in your heart, maybe get to some acceptance and understanding and forgiveness. But you can't actually pray away evil. Although we could have a conversation about why taking out an evil person is actually a spiritual act. I'm happy to go there.
Well, we'll leave that for another time. My guest is my dear friend Arielle Ford. Her new book, The Love Thief. Arielle, please tell our listeners where they can get the book and find out more about you and your amazing work.
Oh, great. Well, the website for the book is thelovethief.com. And if you order the book from that website, you get this incredible bonus. I had 8 of the world's top yoga teachers each make a video taking a deeply disturbing emotion and then showing you the yoga philosophy and yoga pose to overcome it. So it's betrayal, heartbreak, anger, despair, uncertainty, reconnecting to the divine. So you get all of that for free instantly. You can download it when you've ordered the book from thelovethief.com. And then the other place to find me is my website, which is myname.com, arielleford.com. And also I'm on Instagram, arielleford44.
And we'll be back with more of Arielle and The Love Thief after these words on the OMTimes Radio Network.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes. Co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Hi, this is Bill Maher. I can find humor in almost anything, but one thing I never laugh about is cruelty to animals. If you don't get the joke either, write People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, 501 Front Street, Norfolk, Virginia, 23510.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, my dear friend Arielle Ford. We're talking about her new book, The Love Thief. Arielle, on your many trips to India, you've experienced some amazing mystical experiences of your own, including having a Nadi reading. What is that?
Well, 5,000 years ago, there was a seer who wrote down the futures of people who were to come, and he wrote them on palm leaves, everything about their life from the moment they were born to the moment they die. And there aren't leaves for everybody in the world, but there are a lot of leaves. So on one trip, again, I've been to India many times with Deepak Chopra. So Brian and I went with Deepak and his wife and a few friends to India, and he took us for one of these readings. We were in the jungle in South India, 6 hours away from the closest town, in a little cement block building that had a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling and an outhouse. And this was in the late 90s. So this was before there was no internet. There was no way for them to search us. The way that they find your leaf is they take your left thumbprint. That's the only thing they have. They don't have, they don't even see you. The left thumbprint is sent to them in advance. So they don't know your name. They don't know what sex you are. They don't know where you're from. They know nothing about you. And then they put you in a room with a priest who can read the writing on the leaf. It's in ancient Tamil. And they give you a translator who speaks what I like to call Hinglish. I mean, it's half Hindi, half English, and there's a lot of accent to it, so it's not too easy to hear. And as they get the leaf, they start asking you questions. And, you'll get maybe 5 questions in a row where you say yes, and then the next question is a no. And then they say, not your leaf, and they go to the next one. So it's this very slow process. And for most people, it takes about 45 minutes till they find your leaf, if there is a leaf for you, where every question is a yes. So when they got to mine, it was something like, you were born on an early Monday morning. Yes. You have a younger brother and a younger sister. Yes. Your father had 2 wives. Your mother was the first wife. Yes. You went to advanced schooling. Yes. You work in the same field that you studied. Yes. You are a writer. Yes. You have a husband. His name is Brian. Yes. I mean, it's just incredible that they have all this with this tiny leaf. And then they start to tell you the major events of your life, starting from childhood on till the present day that you're sitting in the room with them. And they say to you, and it is forecast that you would be here on this day for this reading. Do you want to know the future? Yes. So then they start going year by year, major things to tell you, things around family, relationships, money, work, health, which was a big one for a lot of people, stuff like that. And it's just fascinating. The whole reading it was probably close to 3 hours, and I videotaped a lot of mine. I had one of those little cams that were so popular back in the 90s. I have a video of mine. And then at one point, I could tell that the reader, the priest, and the interpreter were debating whether or not to tell me something. And there was a lot of head bobbing going on and a lot of whispering. And finally, I just said to them, guys, really, whatever it is, I'm a big girl. Just tell me what it is you're seeing. And the interpreter looks down at his feet and says in a whisper, Madam, I'm so sorry to inform you, you will not be blessed with children in this lifetime. And I started to laugh because I said, yes, I know that. That's by choice. And he looks at me like I'm a lunatic, like he can't believe what I'm saying. And then he translates it to the Tamil priest, and he's looking at me like they've never heard such a thing. And then the translator, his name was Babu. Babu says to me, well, madam, would you like to know why you're not having children in this lifetime? And I said, sure, why not? And he said, well, in your last lifetime, you lived here in Tamil Nadu. You were the only daughter of a very nice family, and you were educated and you worked as a healer, and you performed many illegal abortions, which is why you were not blessed with children in this lifetime. Ooh. Okay, so I'm getting this message. Brian's in another room with another priest and another interpreter, and they're saying to him, sir, we're so sorry to inform you, you will not be blessed with children in this lifetime. And he's thinking, yeah, we had that conversation on our first date, like that was planned. And they said, and sir, would you like to know why? And he said, well, of course, yes. Well, in your last lifetime, when you lived here in Tamil Nadu, you had intimate relations with many women who were not your wife, but had other husbands. So it's just this fascinating thing called a Nadi reading. And we went back to India and had other Nadi readings at other times, and we brought other friends, and it's really something else. And then a few years ago, the most magical thing happened. This man called me that I didn't know, and he said, he told me, he said, my name's Dr. Q, and I live in Europe and I live in South India, and I'm offering Nadi readings for people through Zoom, and I'd like to come to San Diego and take you to lunch and tell you all about my program. So I met up with him, and then I actually had a reading with his people via Zoom, and it was just as significant, just as accurate, just as mind-blowing as the in-person readings that I've had. So this is part of the story of the Love Thief, of the reading that Holly has and how it impacts her life. And then in the back of the book, I give more information that should somebody want to do the Zoom reading, how to contact Dr. Q, because there are phony people who do this, and Dr. Q is the only one that I have vetted that I know and trust. But it's a real thing. It's a real thing. 5,000 years ago, somebody wrote down on a leaf in ancient Tamil, my life story.
And it's fascinating. We had talked about reincarnation and having lived there before, that the last lifetime was there.
Right? Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I hope at some point in this lifetime, I get to spend even more time in Tamil Nadu or in Kerala. Either one of those states would work for me. It's in the south. It's very tropical. And I just love it there. But with India, you can only be there for like 4 months of the year. Like November to February is when the weather is most enjoyable, because otherwise it's on the equator.
Yeah.
It's hot and humid and crazy. And so, if I could spend 4 months in India some year between November and February, that would be a bucket list item for me.
I remember seeing on Facebook that you were staying somewhere that had monkeys outside of your terrace. You had Hanuman.
Oh, there's monkeys everywhere. No, everywhere. Monkeys everywhere. In fact, that happened my first date on the trip to Rishikesh. I heard all this screeching on my patio, and I opened the drapes, and there was this family of monkeys just looking through the glass door at me, carrying on like little silly lunatics, and I just pounded on the door till they went away. But yeah, there's monkeys everywhere.
And they're considered holy, right?
No, the cows are holy.
Oh, the cows are holy. I thought because of Hanuman. No?
Well, there's like, well, your wife would know for sure. There's dozens of gods and goddesses in the Hindu pantheon. Hanuman is the monkey god, and Ganesha is the elephant god, and the monkey. Yeah, Hanuman's also the monkey god. They worship everything there. If there's something there, they'll find a way to make it sacred. And
that's a wonderful concept, the gratitude for everything that you have in your life.
Right? Isn't that wonderful?
Absolutely. Also, did you ever spend any time in the Ganga?
Well, that's, the holiest river, and a lot of the mystical experiences for Holly take place in the river, in Rishikesh. Yes. And it runs all through India, and there's 4 other holy cities. So I personally have not sat in the river, but there's a location at the foot of the Himalayas where the water's pretty clean. And when we took a group 10 years ago, Brian and all of our friends sat in the water and prayed in the water. And I would never do it. Brian ended up getting very sick because he had an open wound on the bottom of his foot, and a parasite crawled into it and nearly killed him. But everybody else who sat in the water did not get sick. It was just, it was destiny,
So why did you choose to send your main character in The Love Thief, Holly, to India to help her heal and transform her life?
But it wasn't really my choice. That's what the movie in my head told me to do. It wasn't like I never went to how to write a novel school. I do know now that people who go and get an MFA in writing fiction, like there's actually like an outline that you use on how to do it. They have these big whiteboards, and they plot out all the characters and all the major scenes, and they draw arrows from this to that. I didn't do any of that. If I wanted to know what to write next, I would sit down, get quiet, close my eyes, and the movie would resume and tell me where to go.
So there's a lot of women listening to us right now who may be looking for their soulmate, What are the red flags for them to watch for to avoid getting into a relationship with a narcissist?
Yes, that's a really good question. So narcissists, or let's call them sociopaths, the toxic narcissist extreme version, they love bomb you. And what love bombing is they move really, really fast. You meet them. They put all their attention on you. They start saying things like, where have you been all my life? I have been waiting for you. I'm so glad we finally met. We are going to have the most beautiful life together. And things move boom, 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 boom. They, especially if you're an attractive, successful woman of any age, but have means and money, that they target you. You become prey, right? So they know that you've spent all this time on your career being really busy, and that at the end of the day, you have no one to go home to. And that's your biggest, fondest dream, is to have, a life partner, a soulmate, your safe place to land. And then they whisper in your ear and they say everything you ever wanted to hear. And you fall in love with them. You get love bombed and you fall for this. So one of the red flags is how fast it all moves. If you've known somebody for, 3 days and suddenly they're making lifelong plans with you and say, I think I could fall in love with you and I think we're going to have a beautiful life together. That's a red flag. You're being love bombed, right? And if you have sex with them at that point, then it's game over for you, because now all the oxytocin is happening and you're bonded to them sexually. And so they just keep this up for a few months. Everything's peachy, wonderful. You think this is it, I've hit the jackpot, until who they really are shows up. And you discover that much of who they claim to be is not true. And suddenly, you're investing in something of theirs on some financial level. And at the end of the day, you're going to be heartbroken and broke.
Women most often feel heartbroken, us guys too, with the romantic mistakes they make and blame themselves. What do you hope readers get from this book?
Well, a couple of things. One of the major takeaways from the book is talking about what love really is. Unfortunately, most people believe that love is a feeling. They think, oh, how do I know I love you? Oh, it feels like champagne bubbles going through my veins and I'm swooning, and it's nature's greatest drug high. It's your brain on drugs. It's on adrenaline, dopamine, and oxytocin, and it feels so great. But it is absolutely zero indicator of love. It is not love. It's nature's trick to get us to procreate. Real, mature adult love is a behavior. It's a behavior. It's a choice. It's a decision. It's an action. It's a way of being. And there are plenty of good feelings that come and go with it, but it is not a feeling. It is a behavior. So understanding that and knowing that if you meet somebody and suddenly you have butterflies in your stomach and you're having all these wild feelings, it's the greatest feeling ever, is the red flag. Because how could you have deep, long-term, lasting love with somebody you haven't known for 72 hours? So that's one of the big messages of the book. And unfortunately, women want that feeling. They just want to feel like they're in love. And then, of course, scientifically, they've proven that honeymoon effect lasts from like 6 months to 3 years if you're really, really lucky. And then it comes and goes at will, but it's pretty much gone. So if you're just going for the feeling, then you have really no chance of long-term happiness, because the science that they've done on relationships that work have a couple of factors in common: connection, compatibility, good communication, which thank God can be learned, chemistry, although chemistry is the least important of the factors. The single most important determinant of a long-term, happy, committed relationship is having a shared vision for the future. We both want kids. We both want to live in the city. We both want to live in the country. We like to do some things together, but not everything together, right? We're both financially responsible people. You have to have shared core values and a shared vision for the future, along with the compatibility, the connection, and the communication.
Absolutely. My guest is Arielle Ford. Her brand new book, The Love Thief. We'll be back with more after these words on the OMTimes Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
If I could be you.
And you could be me.
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
They are our cuddlers and coworkers, purr machines and love bugs, and constant companions. They are our pets, our family, and they make life so much better. When we face unexpected challenges in life, so do our pets. That's why we're on a mission to support people who love their pets and the pets who love their people, ensuring these families stay exactly where they belong, together. And you have something to offer. With an open heart and mind, there is nothing you can't do. There's no gesture too small or too big when it comes to helping. Whether donating a bag of kibble, sharing an Instagram post of a lost cat, or welcoming a foster pet into your home, every bit of kindness counts. You can help keep pets and people together. Visit petsandpeopletogether.org to learn how to be a helper in your community. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, Arielle Ford, her new book, The Love Thief. Arielle, you were sort of touching on this before. You say the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love, is a big lie. What do you mean by that?
It's a big fat lie. All you need is love. Because as I just got done talking about, love is not a feeling. Love is not enough to sustain a relationship. That's all there is to it. Now, love is a critical, important factor, but all you need is love? Absolutely not. Especially if there's kids involved. You need love, and you need, mature, responsible people who are working and making money and taking care of the family. And there's plenty of people who have loved somebody with all of their heart and couldn't sustain a relationship with them because they have character defects, or they have addictions, or they, want to be artists and don't want to work, or whatever it is. So lots of people know what it's like to love somebody, but it's not enough to sustain a relationship.
So what really is a soulmate?
I believe that a soulmate is first and foremost somebody you can completely be yourself with, somebody with whom you share unconditional love. And when you look into their eyes, you have the feeling of being home. And if you accept that definition, then the truth is all of us have many soulmates. It's our kids, our parents, our siblings, our coworkers, our best friends, our cats, and our dogs. Because these are people that you can be yourself with, you share unconditional love, and they feel like home. So I always tell single people the fastest way to have a romantic soulmate is to start each day with a daily gratitude process where you drop into your heart and you give thanks and gratitude for all the soulmates you already have, for the abundance of love you already have. And when you become present to the abundance of love and soulmates you already have, you raise your love frequency, which makes your heart magnetic to attracting a romantic soulmate.
You share that you believe that happiness is the wrong goal for us to pursue. Why?
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure that one out. So happiness is generally dependent on people, places, things, and experiences. You know, I'm happy, Victor, because right now I'm talking to you and I just really love you. So I'm happy, but, in a few more minutes, we won't be talking anymore. I may not be as happy. Or, I've wanted to, lose 45 pounds for so long. And I spent a year exercising and eating right. And I lost the 45 pounds. And all of a sudden I realized I'm not any happier. It didn't make me happy. So I discovered this word, at least I discovered it for myself. It's a Sanskrit word called santosha. And santosha means utter contentment. Santosha is about being at peace with whatever is. The guy comes and goes, the girl comes and goes, the money comes and goes, the health comes and goes. That could impact my happiness level. But if I'm in contentment, if I'm willing to be with what is and find the good in what is, then I'm not thrown from side to side by happiness.
It's sort of like the understanding that everything is unfolding in divine order.
Yes. And choosing to make it so. Because who knows? Do we know what divine order is? No, we really don't know. But if we choose to say the universe always has my back, that's a lot more empowering than, I'm a loser when it comes to love.
Yeah. Yeah. You are well aware of my story with Lori Sue. And for our listeners who are not familiar, I'm going to give you a very quick summary of what had happened. Lori Sue was coming into the new seminary as I was graduating. And at the time, I was in a relationship with a wonderful woman named Judy, who unfortunately was suffering from cancer. And at our graduation and ordination ceremony, she was there with me. She was graduating with me. And she was on the stage, and I was the class president, and I was giving a speech before this huge crowd and honoring her about her courage, about the lives she had changed as a special education teacher and turned around so many kids, and kids who had had no future were then going to college and seeking out wonderful careers and were finding goals in life, and she instilled those goals in them. And that was November of 1997. She transitioned in January of 1998. And I'd become part of the teaching team at the new seminary at the time, and one of the working with the deans. And I kept seeing this woman smile at me. And I said, "Who is that?" And they said, "That's Lori Sue Brockway." I said, "Oh, she's new in the school. What does she do? Or what did she do before coming into the school?" And they told me that she had been the editor-in-chief of Playgirl magazine. And I said, "She's not smiling at me. I'm not Mr. January." But little did I know that when she heard me give that speech honoring my former partner, she said, "Where do you find a man who honors a woman the way this man was honoring that woman?" And it planted a seed. And a few months down the line, we became friends, and I became friends with my now son, Alexander, who was her son at the time and still is her son, obviously. And about a year later, the relationship began. And talk about finding your soulmate. We really found soulmates within each other.
And we were at your wedding when you got married by Elvis.
And you guys came to our wedding, the second wedding. You and Brian came to our second wedding in Vegas. We had our Vegas Elvis wedding, which was so wonderful to have you there with us at that time. But that to me, I feel very blessed to have had all of the experiences in my life, even with loss. And then finding this relationship with Lori Sue, which really became the adult relationship for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, no, it's and that is destiny. You had a calling to go into the ministry. She had a calling to go to the ministry. You both listened, and divine timing played out. And then you got this amazing bonus kid, Alex.
Absolutely.
Right? Who's just one of the most amazing little creatures on the planet.
Absolutely.
I met him when he was 5 years old. He came to one of my book signings in the village. And he just walked right up and wanted to give a talk with me and just started talking. We hadn't met yet. Just started chatting with me. And I was like, well, who are you? He goes, well, I'm here with my mom, Lori Sue. Like, wow, you're pretty adorable. And he said, well, when I grow up, I'm going to be a radio sportscaster. I was like, oh, okay. He just took over. It was so much fun.
And he's a wonderful son, a stepson to me. And of course, Lori Sue became stepmom to my daughter, Abby. And we have this wonderful family and we love and support each other. And I feel very, very blessed.
Wow. You guys are just like the picture perfect, love each other, grow together, support each other. I mean, I love following all of you on Facebook.
Thank you. Why is your book, The Love Thief, such an important story?
Well, I would say more than anything, it's an entertaining story for people who love to read, especially summer beach reads. I have a woman in Hollywood who's going to develop it as a limited streaming series. And she says the book is Eat, Pray, Love meets Dirty John. And that is exactly what it is. So first and foremost, it's a fun read. It's an enjoyable read. My character, Holly, even though she's going through a lot of trauma, she's funny as hell. And she's really snarky, right? And so it's this crazy blend of through the back door mysticism and spirituality, coupled with, real girl stuff, like her favorite TV show is Say Yes to the Dress, right? In the meantime, she's floating in the Ganges, having these Santosha experiences. So, and I also put recipes in the book because Holly is in Rishikesh learning Indian cooking. So I thought, well, let's make it even more authentic. There's really delicious Indian food recipes in the book as well. So my hope is that anybody who's ever had their heart broken will find healing in the book. But anybody who loves to read will absolutely have a great time reading this book this summer.
And as you said in the press release, your water has broken. The book is about to be delivered. Actually, was delivered yesterday and is available now on all the wonderful sites. Let me ask you the loaded question. Is there another novel in Arielle Ford's future?
Every time I think about it for a second, I make it go away. It took me 5 years to write this, and I didn't even know what I was doing. If another movie starts up, I have to admit the title has come to me and I'm not going to share it. So there is a title that I really love, but I don't know because right now it's like I got a newborn, right? There's no time to think about having another kid. I'm still having, memories from pushing this one out. It was hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done because as I said, the only thing that writing fiction and nonfiction have in common, the only thing is words. They both use words. Other than that, it's a totally different game. And the learning curve was hard and steep. I'm glad I did it. I'm really proud of myself for sticking with it. But the idea of doing it again, ask me next year.
Okay, and I'll have the show reserved for you to come on next year when the next one comes out, when you birth the next book. Yeah. Tell us about your very special heart healing yoga video series and how listeners can get it.
Oh, yeah. So since Holly goes through all these emotions in the book, she's a roller coaster of emotions. I wanted to create a Healing the Heart video series where I had 8 of the world's top yoga teachers each give me a video where they took on one of the emotions and explained the yoga philosophy and demonstrated the yoga poses to overcome anger, heartbreak, betrayal, get to forgiveness, letting go of uncertainty, topics like that. So when you order the book at thelovethief.com, you get instant free access to all of these videos.
That's wonderful. Can you describe one of them? One of the yoga poses?
I know that I actually go more for the philosophy than the poses. I suffer from reflux, so I can't really do yoga because when I go upside down, it really hurts. So I never focused on the poses, but they are all in there. But the philosophy, is really great. And I guess the yoga teacher who was talking about uncertainty demonstrated how to use humming as a way to let go of anxiety, which I thought was fascinating.
My guest, my dear friend, Arielle Ford, her book, The Love Thief. Arielle, one more time, please tell our listeners where they can get the book and find out more about you and your amazing work.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so the book is at thelovethief.com. My website is myname.com, arielleford.com. I'm on Instagram at arielleford44. And I'm pretty easy to find. If you Google me, you'll find me. And mostly I just want anybody who loves to read The Love Thief.
And this is going to be the big hit for the summer, for that beach read where you're at the beach and you're relaxing and you want to read a really amazing and juicy story. The Love Thief by Arielle Ford. Arielle, I love you. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing this wonderful tale.
Oh, thank you, Vic. It's always so much fun to be with you. And give Lori Sue a big hug and kiss from me.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor, the Voice Fuhrman. Have a wonderful week.